bunch of different screens, and it finally decided it liked this screen.
Okay. Oh, it's live. It
Yes,
says
Yeah.
live.
All right, well, you guys, I apologize for wasting your time. Thank you for bearing with me. We can go ahead and get started. We've got Scott Carney here.
Oh, should we tweet
Yeah.
that it's now live or something like that
Yes,
in case?
yes. Hi, Catherine.
I'm walking to get to a quiet room.
Sure. I'm trying to write back to people. Now live.
Yay.
Yay. All right, well, I hope that doesn't happen again. Okay, I think I spread the word. Hillary, yeah.
I'm just going to put some stuff on Facebook, too.
Yeah, go right on ahead.
Mm-hmm. There we go. All right. Well, supposedly. Wow, this takes up a lot of bandwidth.
Yeah, I think that's part of the problem.
Mm-hmm.
I noticed that I changed to my own Wi-Fi hotspot instead of my Wi-Fi, and I don't know, that seemed to help for some reason.
Good. Fantastic.
Yeah. Okay, well, I don't know who else might be joining us, but I think some people might watch the footage a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
I'm Anna Pratt, the chair of SBJ's Freelance Community, and I know we've got Hillary Niles here, and Catherine Mobley, and Scott Carney. And I thought that we could start our hangout not with technical issues, but with Scott. Scott has a project underway that I thought it might be good if we heard a little bit about. And maybe, Scott, you want to share a little bit about yourself, too, and your background.
Sure. I'm an investigative journalist with 3 books out, or no, 2 books out and 1 underway. I write for Wired, for Foreign Policy, Playboy, Mother Jones, sort of those magazines that show up in airport newsstands. And so a couple years ago, I had this experience where I did a piece for Wired, which was pretty good. It got a lot of interest in Wired, and they paid me about $4,500 for the story. And then it was it probably took me 3 months to report it. It was an intensive investigation in rural India. And then my contract for Condé Nast, they had most of the reprint rights. That was sort of standard at the time when I was writing. But somehow I managed to negotiate them back, and I started reprinting the story on my own, and I made about 20 grand reprinting this story in foreign markets like in Germany and Brazil and just like random places around the world. And that opened my eyes to the fact that freelance writing is potentially more lucrative than what they tell you you're worth. And these magazines that we work for are basically stiffing us on for our labor. If you look at any of these mainstream magazines, Wired is the one that I work for quite a bit. They'll sell 1 page of advertising for about $140,000, and they run 20 ads in the book. Sometimes as many as 70 ads in the book. And it turns out they pay writers only about 1% of their revenue from advertising to the writers, which I feel is a sort of a tragedy. We should never be taken advantage of like this. So I started a Kickstarter a couple days ago, 2 weeks ago. Maybe I can get it up. Where called Word Rates, where what I want to do is negotiate for better terms for writers in general. And I want to do that in 2 different ways. First of all, I just want to create basically a Yelp for the publishing industry, where we rate magazines and and editors that we work with, just like you would for a restaurant. So if you have a great editor, I just put the link right there. If you have a great editor, you can say, hey, this is a fantastic person to work with. Pitch this person. They're great. You'll have their contact information, all that stuff. And if it was a bad editor, and we've all had bad editors, or late payments or things, you can write those in the comments too. So then we have sort of information as we go to market with our ideas to know what's going on. And the second part of the website, which I think is much more revolutionary, is to pair, it's called Pitch Lab. It's where we pair sort of a seasoned journalist who's writing for the top magazines with a person who has a great idea that they want to shop out at sort of the top level. And they'll submit it to Pitch Lab, and if the mentors, as I call them, like the pitch, they'll shop that out to their contacts just like a literary agent would, and attempt to get the very best deal for that story. So instead of selling it, going to say Wired and being like, hey, here's my story, will you take it? And then you wait 3 months for the pitch to get assigned and come back to you as sort of a possible offer. What they do is they'll pitch to like 20 different magazines at once, people they work with regularly, and say, hey, is this an idea you want to buy? And hopefully, using the competition between magazines and the desire to have the best stories around, you'll be able to negotiate for something closer to a market rate instead of a word rate for the work. And so that's my dream. And I've gotten, in the mentor slot, I've got a bunch of very well-known writers who are interested in taking that position. A lot of people for the New Yorker, for Rolling Stone, for Wired, who want to be these mentors and see. Right now, most of us get tons of emails from people being like, hey, can you help me be a writer? And you give all this free advice to people, but now there's a way to incentivize it. So that's the general idea.
Cool.
And it's great. I mean, it's 15 days, and we've gotten, almost 80 or 90% of the way there. We just need 500 more bucks, and then I'll be able to build it.
Wow.
So that's it's super cool.
Yeah, it is, definitely.
And how does it work for the mentors? Do they get
a commission? So it would be just like a literary agency. When I sell books, I give my agent 15%. That's split between the literary agent and the agency, just like it would be here.
Yeah.
And the idea is that working with someone else, they'll be able to get you more money than you would on your own.
Sure.
But they will be taking a percentage. So it doesn't necessarily work out that way, but it probably would, is my guess.
Yeah. Yeah, that makes sense. Wow. And how long do you think it'll take you to make once you start to build it? Sounds like you already have some of the pieces planned out.
It should be up in August, is my guess. At least the first part of it, the word rates, the Yelp style reviews, will be up in August, assuming that this all funds, but it looks like it will. And once that's done, the Pitch Lab may take a little bit longer, just because of some technical issues on the back end, and we need a legal system and payment structures. But by fall is when we think that this will be all live. But it could get started earlier too. I mean, it just depends on the most important thing in the Pitch Lab is the relationship between the mentor and the person with the idea, and I just need a way to modulate and sort of have those relationships, a way to establish them as sort of a, in the protocol of the website. And I think, and we also need great ideas. Like it's not going to we take every idea that comes in. It's going to be a pretty selective process, because we want only ideas that magazines would want to compete over. So this is not going to be your 10 best listicles. I want the cutting edge hardcore story that might win a national magazine award. That's initially what we're going to go for, because I figure you're going to be able to reform. If you can reform the top of the market, there's going to be a sort of a trickle down effect in general.
Wow.
Scott, is this going to benefit print, or will there also be a pathway for broadcast?
Well, see, the idea is that it's print at the moment. I don't think we're set up to sell broadcast. I think that it would be very easy to implement, but I'm marketing to writers right now. The idea is that we want to, I'm very familiar with the publishing world, is what it comes down to. I understand publishing contracts. I know what to look for in that. Broadcast contracts are a little bit different, and what it would require would be an expertise base for that. And also, since I've been marketing to writers in the Kickstarter, we have like 150 writers interested in the project. We don't have people in the broadcast world. So when it comes to crowdsourcing and that sort of thing, we just wouldn't have the expertise behind us at the moment. Are you a broadcast journalist, or?
I am.
Okay.
Yeah, I've worked in both radio and TV and cable, but I've also done print too.
Okay. Well, I mean, I think with what it does interest me very much is that when I'm a writer and I submit a feature story to, say, Wired or for to whoever, movie rights are becoming increasingly contentious. So they usually these days ask for a large percentage of movie rights and theatrical dramatic rights than they did even 3 years ago. Condé Nast just put out a new contract, basically saying they own your movie rights if they can sell the movie rights within the first week. The Atlantic says they own 50% of the movie rights. Playboy says they own 50%. This is all in the last year that they did that. And I think it's really important to push back in the writers' contracts that we own that, so that we can then control the digital life afterwards. That's not directly about broadcast. It's sort of the indirect thing.
Yeah. No, I get it. It. Definitely. And the thing is, when I'm talking about broadcast, I'm not talking necessarily about traditional broadcast, because more is being done online. And so I think that just that industry alone, the face of it is changing. It's evolving, and it's actually becoming a little easier to self-produce things.
Right. No, it's true. And I think, I mean, I don't really look at myself as a writer anyway. I look at myself as a storyteller and a journalist in sort of any medium that's out there. It just happens to be that I've had the most success in print. But ultimately, it comes down to, we're creative professionals. We're telling stories, and then we're trying to make money on those stories in some way. That's the nature of being a professional journalist. So, and I don't know the business model for broadcast in general, but I'm pretty much positive that they make a lot of money on it compared to what they pay for the content. I know that Vice will pay like $1,000 for one of their stories that goes online, and they make, they get 100,000 hits. That's worth way more than $1,000 ultimately. So ultimately, it comes down to negotiating, and I want to create a new way for creative people to negotiate. And we'll expand if this is successful. I know translators have expressed interest in this. I know, basically freelancers everywhere are screwed, and they all want some way to change the marketplace on their behalf.
Very cool. Very cool. Great.
So, how else can I help you guys?
That sounds good, Scott. Thank you so much for being willing to take the time to be here today, and I apologize for the trouble getting started.
Oh yeah, no worries. Google is what it is. Actually, I'm surprised that the fidelity is as good as it is. It's a pretty cool system.
It is.
Yeah. Yeah. Last time, I think I told you this. Last time I didn't understand that Google had this capacity, so a lot of people got bounced out of the call. So I don't know, maybe my technical issues at the beginning of this one turned some people away.
Could be. Who knows?
I feel bad, but I do think that people will rewatch this footage, and it's good to get a little more background on your project. And sounds like you've got a lot of good momentum behind it. So
yeah,
that's great.
I think it's gonna happen, but the most important thing is getting a community of people contributing to it, getting people active, and building it's one thing. It's not that technically difficult to do. It's the seeing it succeed over the course of months or years. And I may get some legal challenges. I'm sure that someone's going to be angry at me and they're going to sue me, or that stuff could all be.
That's when you really know you're doing it right.
That's right.
Mm-hmm.
That's when you know you got a hit on your hands.
Yep. And I know that I get a lot of random suspicious hits on my website from Condé Nast servers, because I sort of target Condé because they're sort of the top of the market right now. So that's good. Making some people angry is not the end of the world. But I will say that a lot of writers are really nervous about negotiating in general with publications. We feel really powerless. We feel like if you want a better deal, you have to get seniority or something. You have to work for them for a very long time, and that's the way you come up. But that is not really what it is. Usually if you take a bad deal in the beginning, you stay with a bad deal for the duration of your career. It's not the 70s anymore.
Oh, God. Anna, I need to go. I've got a call I've been waiting for. It's finally coming in, and I do apologize.
Oh, sure.
Scott, it was wonderful listening to you, meeting you, and I will definitely plug into your website.
Great, thank you.
And I hope I can also help to contribute, collaborate in the future, because you're right. It's easy to build something. Maintaining it is the challenge.
Yeah, well, it's hard to build it too, but it's all going to be a challenge. Yeah, but please take a look at the Kickstarter. I got websites and I blog about this shit all the time. So.
Okay, great. All right, Hillary, Anna, Scott, take care.
Oh, yes, you too. Thanks, Catherine. Hey, Scott, I see that somebody sent me a question for you saying, do you have anything built in to planned contracts to address what is actually unfair use of fair use?
No. I've never really, I mean, in terms of what? Like as if you publish something and you're worried that somebody might try to reprint it in an illegal way. That's not something that would ever be in a publishing contract. That's sort of outside of that realm usually. I think, maybe this person's I'm misunderstanding the question, but fair use is something where I can quote somebody in a small way in my article and not be violating copyright. That's not the purview of the original publisher. That's the purview of the relationship between the third party and the first party. No, fair use isn't really something that I'm worried about. I am worried about reprints. I am worried about when I write a story for Condé Nast and they reprint it in all of their foreign editions. That is something that's very concerning to me, because they will pay you next to nothing for that, or web rights, where you sold print rights, but then they make double the money on web too. These are things that concern me. People will reprint your stories illegally all over the internet, but I want to go after the people who actually are making real money on that. Cool.
Sure. Yeah, I think that sounds good. I'm also not seeing the chat box that's normally off to the side.
It's on the right side. You have to click it open on the left side. On the upper left-hand side, there's a chat button, and you click that, and then the button on the right opens up.
There's something weird about my window where everything. Okay, I found it. Okay. Yeah, so I don't know if anyone has any other questions. I'm not seeing anything over there.
I don't know if people who are just watching would be able to use the group chat there, or if there would be a separate chat box for them.
I think they can write into the thread about the conversation. I am not. I'm not seeing it.
Well, I actually have a question for you, Scott, in the meantime.
Sure.
We were chatting, we had a brief online chat the other day, and one of the things that was coming up was when you pitch an idea and then the editor poaches the idea, assigns it to a staff writer. And so we were talking about sort of like strategies for how much or how little to share with them, just so that it's not, you're not like laying out the red carpet for them to walk all over your story. But But I wanted to, so obviously with what you're creating, you know, it's obviously coming from a place of sort of having the best interest of the freelancer in mind. But I'm still curious how you plan to handle sort of the confidentiality, I guess, of when people pitch their stories.
Poaching happens already in the industry. It's really common to have your story taken out to a magazine, and then they say, "Oh no, we don't want your story," and then it shows up later. And there's always this plausible deniability that, I mean, ideas are all over the place, right? I mean, a lot of people have similar ideas, and that it's hard to know for sure that something was poached. So I think it's very important when you're pitching a story to make, the ones that are going to sell initially in this are going to be ones that only you can write, i.e. you have the access to the source in a way no one else does. And I think since we don't have a lot of protections on pitches at the moment, as I understand copyright law and intellectual property law, you can't copyright an idea. You don't have ownership on an idea. So what you need to do is instead control access from the source side. Be like, I'm the only person who can write this. I'm the person who's going to be able to write this best, and it's my idea anyway. Now, I will say that people get stories stolen frequently, but they also get stories made frequently. Like if you look in the book publishing world, the way you publish a book is you go out to 20 different book publishers and you share your idea with all of them, and then they bid, and then you go write your book. They could, in theory, steal your idea, but in general there's a congeniality in there where they will not do that, and I think if we're operating on a high enough level, that will not be a major issue. That said, I would love to talk with a lawyer out there who could find a way to secure this these ideas from poaching, and I would love to find a way to legally do that, and I'd love to sue the hell out of a magazine that I can prove did poach an idea. And it's just how to do that is the tricky thing. But I'm pairing up in this with a literary agency in New York who has some lawyers on staff. I've got some pro bono people who say they'll work with me. So this is something that I'm very much looking at as an issue that I know will come up, and all I can say is that I'm doing it. But I think the stories that will sell initially, we want to sell a really big, important, meaty feature first. It's going to be a story that they couldn't otherwise get. Like, it's got to be a story that they all want and they don't have access to for one reason or another. So I think, and then once we have a couple successes under our belt saying that this is the way we do things, I think they're going to be a lot more reluctant to treat us like we're like a small ball person. I mean, what I'm making is not a union. Very specifically, it's not a union. It's not legal in this world because we can't collectively bargain as freelancers. That said, the way it's going to work will have the power of the market behind it, and I think to violate those standards, we'll have a similar negotiating power as a union. So, I mean, if it's big enough, if it grows to the right size, because they're going to still want access to ideas.
Yeah, exactly. Cool. It sounds like you're thinking about it strategically in a way that would, that will position it to be taken seriously and to sort of position it for growth. I'm impressed with your.
Thanks. Yeah, I think about the writing business all the time, and like, yeah, I appreciate it. I mean, I wanted this. I believe in for-profit journalism. I think nonprofit journalism is a really, really unstable idea. There's a lot of grant agencies that go out there and will give you $5,000 to go do your story with the idea that journalism's dying and that needs to be subsidized. I think that's really silly because the magazines make a ton of money. They're buying billion-dollar real estate in Manhattan right now. That does not need to be subsidized. What needs to happen is we need to take money back from them. And then we don't need to worry about foundation supported stuff. We can actually have a viable business model on our own.
Mm-hmm. Have you done stories before where you took grant? Have you ever gotten that type of grant funding for stories?
Oh yeah, all the time. From the Pulitzer Center, from the Fund for Investigative Journalism. I mean, that's the way it's done a lot of the time. But I also very frequently get everything covered by the magazines. Like, you know, if I need $5,000 in expenses, that's stupid money for these people. They don't need to care about $5,000. They just sold an advertisement for $140,000 next to my story. They can cough up another 10, 20 grand and not worry, and they should. And you know that is, and they sell. The funny thing is they'll go. You know, and NPR does this all the time, right? They'll go out on their fundraising drives and be like, "Hi, we need money because reporters are expensive and all this stuff." And you know that's true. Reporters are expensive, and there's all this skill and going, and that's how they advertise it to their listeners. But they pay their freelancers like $250 for a story and don't cover expenses. So they're lying to some degree. And all of these things, people do this. And if you know, they have to put their money their money where their mouth is. If they want good reporting.
I like it. I'm all fired up. You're an inspiration.
Well, good. Excellent.
I agree. You said you have 15 more days to fund it?
Yep. 15
days. You're already almost there?
Yeah, I am pretty sure that we're going to bust past it. I mean, in the last 2 days, we raised like $1,500 or something. Let me see. I'll get that. For some reason, only the Kickstarter on the iPhone shows the day thing, but yeah. So in the last 2 days, we raised like $1,300, and you know, we're only $500 away from where it needs to be. So, but you know, maybe we'll bust through. That'd be great. You know, more money means more resources I can put into building it, and then you know, we're gonna have to hire data entry people, data scraping people, just all sorts of like small ball things. And then I think eventually I'd like to, if there's enough money in this, I'll probably go to, you know, do the rounds at like, you know, SPJ conferences, IREs, you know, all that stuff to go meet people. I don't yet have a budget for that. I have, you know, I live off book advances, which are fine, but I want to be able to not, you know, invest all of my money in this project. This is one of like 4 things that I've got going, as every freelancer does, you know.
What's your book that you have coming out soon?
It is about, how much can I talk about? Not much. It's based off a Playboy story that I did 2 years ago, about a guy in Holland who has a unique meditation technique. But that doesn't really describe the book very well. But it's going to be awesome. It's going to be really cool.
Good. Well, we'll have to watch for that too and check out your other stuff.
Yeah, I had one come out. Let's see, 3 weeks ago or 4 weeks ago, with Penguin. So that's called A Death on Diamond Mountain. That's about meditation and how people can get so into meditation that they can have these really dark and possibly fatal experiences. So that came out 3 weeks ago, and then I had another book about organ trafficking that I wrote in 2011. So I get around.
Yeah, right. Well, that's exciting, and it's fun to see your stuff coming out, and you'll have to keep us posted about how things go with the project. And
sure, join the mailing list.
Yeah, I will.
Yeah, it's
Is that via the Kickstarter page?
No, it's on my website.
On the website.
And if you join the mailing list, you'll get a free copy of my quick and dirty guide to freelance writing, which is basically some business ideas for how to, you know, negotiate better, write better pitches. You can buy it on Amazon for $10. You can contribute to the Kickstarter campaign for $5, and you'll get it, or anyone gets it who does the Kickstarter. But it's also for free if you join the mailing list on my website. So I just really want people to read it, and the idea is that if everyone fights harder and advocates for themselves, the overall market will get better. And I don't care how you fight, you just got to do it.
I think it's impressive too that you've been able to get people to be willing to be mentors, and you know, also to, you know, be with you on this. So, well, good job.
Thanks. Yeah, and I think it's really important that they're really high-profile mentors. Like, they've got to be people who are in the top markets for this to be taken seriously. And I've got a lot of, you know, I was talking with Sebastian Junger the other day. He was really fired up about it. I don't think he'd be a mentor, but you know, there are a lot of people in these top magazines who really want to earn a middle class living, and
Right.
you know, even if they're in the top places, they realize the business models are all messed up. So I wanted this to appeal not only to new writers, I wanted it to appeal to people who are really experienced as well. And then so I think I found a point where everyone can meet and then fight together. So that, you know, there are a lot of business models out there that just fail because they're like, oh, we're going to do a collective. And what does that mean? It's like the rich people subsidize the poor ones, and that doesn't work in the freelance business, you know? And so we have to find incentives that all line up and make it worth everyone's while. Cool.
Great.
All right. Well, thanks everyone. And if you have any more questions or people come back in together, let's we can do it again and contribute.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Great.
Awesome.
Thank you so much, Scott. We
Thanks.
appreciate your time.
Mm-hmm. All right. Take care. Keep writing.
Yes, you too.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you as well, Hillary. See ya.
Bye-bye.
Thanks, Scott. Hi, Hillary. I don't know if we've got anybody else here. I guess I can quickly say that, we've got some other programs in the works. We're trying to figure out webinars right now. I'm not sure about all the tech that goes into that, so we're looking at that, and we're planning some other Google Chats, or not Google Chats, online chats via the community website, and those will have certain topics. So we've created a calendar for that, and also continuing on with Google Hangouts. And if people have ideas or suggestions or feedback, we are open and welcoming to that. So I'm trying to figure out if there are any other announcements that I need to make. I think that's probably about it. Hillary, thank you so much for being here. And again, my apologies for the issues in the beginning. I'm afraid that may have turned away some people, but.
Well, that's all right. I know that's stressful to be in that position. So, there goes up to you for having to experience that. I'm sure that it'll all get ironed out. And thank you for putting that together, because that was, just great to learn about what he's doing and learn about that. I mean, I guess what I'm trying to say is it was good to learn about the resources that he's working on putting together.
Right.
But it was also, it really was inspiring. I mean, it's great to just be exposed to that type of mentality and know that there is, know that you just don't have to take it. And there are other freelancers out there, who just because we work independently, that doesn't mean we can't work together to sort of collectively, improve our negotiating leverage and learn from each other. And so that was awesome. Thank you for arranging this.
Oh, sure.
Yeah.
Great.
Do you say that there's a calendar for, or not for the Google Chats, but for the little online chats through the web, through SPJ's own platform? Is that calendar already set of topics?
It is, but it's very tentative. Like, if people have certain interests, and maybe there's something that I put on there that people would like to substitute with something else, we could do that. Or if there are things that come up along the way that make sense to address, like let's say we have an online chat and it seems like there's a lot of interest in, trying to tackle a certain topic, then, we could do that instead, or we could do an additional program. So I was trying to figure out what might be the easiest way to communicate about those. Like, I can have somebody with SPJ put them on our website, so like a calendar that way. I can also send out an email kind of laying it out, and tweet about it and that kind of thing. But yeah, some of those things are open to change or can be adjusted depending on what what people's interests are. I've been trying to collect some feedback, and then I tried to synthesize it into, what I wrote up. And another thing I'm not totally certain about is, what kind of timing really works best for people. I've been doing, Friday at 1 p.m., Central Time, and Tuesday, 1 o'clock Central Standard Time. But I'm not sure if people are also interested in maybe, a happy hour chat or, early morning chat. So, or a different day, So hopefully people can give us some input on that if there's a certain time that they think might be better for the masses.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah. The last, this week I've been psyched because it just happened to work for me this week to attend both the chat and this hangout today. But then there was 1 month when I just was on the road and couldn't make it to the hangout.
Was that last month, April?
Yeah, I think so.
I think that there were a lot of things going on last month. So, everyone's schedules kind of aligned with things not really coming together last month. Yeah. So you didn't miss out on anything.
Okay. Is there as far as the best way to get the word out about the calendar, about the schedule, it seems to me like it would be good to put it both places, like to send an email out to the freelance community members, but also get it up on the website too, because that way, you don't have to sort through your email. You can just know that there's a count. It also shows on the website that the freelance community is active, and so it might be helpful just for attracting more people, and because people like to join, groups that are active. So that might be good to do it both ways.
Exactly. Yeah, and if you have,
I was just going to say, if there's a rough schedule of when the chats are or when the hangouts are. Like I know that the way I handle, and everybody's different, obviously, but I would just plug those into my calendar, and then to whatever I'm able, I would then schedule stuff around those times.
Sure.
So even if I don't know the topic, if I know that there's going to be a chat, one Tuesday or whatever it is, then I would try to keep that open.
Sure. Yeah, and another thing that I was wondering, I don't know if you have a thought on this. I think right now the way I have it is I have a Google Hangout once a month, an online chat once a month, and then the webinars sprinkled in. Those are still a little bit up in the air because I'm still trying to figure out what all we need in place to do those. But one thing I was wondering is, I don't know if we want to have more online chats, for example, like more frequently than once a month, or if once a month sounds good in addition to the Google Hangouts. And I'm not sure how much, like how frequent, those kinds of things should be.
Right. Yeah, that's a good question. Maybe it would be good to start with once a month. Like I know I used to be a program director for a community radio station, and we would always encourage people when they had an idea for a new show. To start, we would encourage people to start small, to sort of see, like, test out how much effort is really involved in putting it on. And then if there's a demand for it, and if it seems like there's not enough time, like, oh man, we have to wait a whole month, or like maybe there's 3 burning issues, that we all want to chat about, then, and we don't want to space them out over 3 months, then maybe that would be a time to schedule either a special, like a, sort of a one, not necessarily commit to it for the whole year round, but maybe, okay, we're going to have an extra chat 1 month. But then that way you don't obligate yourself to coming up with topics, every 2 weeks or something, because that could be a lot.
Yep. And just getting prepared to moderate a conversation or whatever.
So
that sounds good.
what other people what other people might think about it. So
Yeah, well, I think you're probably right. Anything else that you think might be good to know, or any other thoughts that you have before I hit the stop broadcast button?
the broadcasting, I forgot. I don't have any. No, I don't have anything. I don't have any particular stuff. I can say that it just as far as like participating in the freelance community, for me, having had the chance to attend a couple of these events is helpful for me to just sort of get involved slowly and get sort of more into the habit of thinking of the SPJ freelance community, and sort of getting it more towards the forefront of my mind. For example, like when I'm more likely, having just participated in this hangout, if I see a cool resource, I'm more likely to, in the next few days, I'm more likely now to go to the message board and put it on there.
Yep.
These types of activities, like I don't necessarily have like a list of things that I'm dying for from the freelance community. Yeah. I just know it's a good idea. It's something that I sort of like over time would like to be able to contribute to. And these activities help just get it sort of more imprinted into my brain waves.
Sure. Sure. Yeah, that makes sense to me. Good.
Thank you for putting it on.
Oh, thanks for coming, and thanks for your time and bearing with me. I appreciate it, and thanks for your input too, and for staying tuned. So
sure thing. All right. Well, have it's Friday, right? Have a good weekend.
Yeah, you too.
Thank you. I'll see you
All
soon.
right. Yeah,
okay.
Sounds good.
Bye, Anna.
Bye.